All right, so we're going to do the intro. Or, Jack, you're going to start the
Yeah, I
intro?
am. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Naked Diner podcast. It is episode 166, video episode 2. I'm going to do that for the whole series, Andy.
I think that's very exciting. I think our viewers and our listeners will love that, Jack
Yeah.
Matirko.
And so we are joined this week by Stu De Haan, who you probably know from the Satanic Temple lawyer stuff, right? But we might talk about his band and we might talk about some other stuff. We're going to see how it goes, feel it out.
Satanic Temple lawyer stuff. This sounds like there should be a really cool name for that.
He has one.
The unholy consigliere.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Put
like
that on your cards.
that.
That was a Lanzifer term. I took that from him because the devil's advocate thing is overplayed.
Yeah. Also a thing that doesn't, like, the office of devil's advocate doesn't exist at the Vatican anymore.
I did not know
They
that.
they got
Same.
rid of it after Christopher Hitchens argued against Mother Teresa's sainthood. They hired him to be the devil's advocate against Mother Teresa, and then they stopped doing it.
I suspect Christopher Hitchens may have had something to do with it, but thank you for confirming that, Jack Matirko.
Yeah. So Stu,
Was it because of all the C bombs? Was it because of all the C bombs he threw down?
there's back video. You'd have to look it up. All that stuff's on tape. It's Hitchens, right?
Sure.
So Stu, you and I have a new show going on too, pretty soon, huh?
We do. We just launched our very first episode on the night of Halloween for The Devil's Dispatch, which is Jack's show with me on the brand new satanictemple.tv. So we will be focusing on the Satanic Temple and other Satan-related stuff. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that.
So what's the format of the show?
Well, we're trying to do kind of like an interview show. So what we'll do is we have a couple guests per episode, and it's filmed with Jack and I together in Tucson for now. And then we basically have guests from around the country that are doing stuff within TST. And kind of my thought on the whole thing was there's a lot of people that do things for the temple that might not be in the limelight. They do stuff behind the scenes. And I'd like to get them on the show and have them be able to tell the public and other members of the temple what they have going on. So people kind of know who the movers and shakers are in this whole outfit.
Or at least being able to point out like stuff that's like, hey, if you're in this area, go do, because that happens like all the time.
Right,
I think
so-
that's going to be a big boon for TSD with that kind of thing, is to be like, because we get questions all the time about like, I'm in this state and I want to start a thing, and it's just like there's already a thing, like.
Right, so people will be able to talk about their events. There's a lot of ritual events on baptism. If there's any political rallies or interesting things that we're doing, of course, I can update on the lawsuits and things like that as it comes, which is a slow process. But also, we're directly in touch with Lucian Greaves, so we expect him to be on the show very regularly to kind of give updates what's going on. And there's so much now compared to when Jack and I first started here, like 3 or 4 years ago, that there was like a finite amount of stuff to talk about. But now 4 years later, and especially after the documentary dropped this year, I mean, it's since our last episode, there's 10 things we could talk about already.
Yep.
So things are a lot faster. There's a lot more people. There's a lot more activity, and I feel like this show can really help kind of broadcast to the public what's going on.
I don't want you to give anything away, but am I hearing there's going to be a fireside chat with Lucian?
I mean, something
Yeah,
akin to that, I guess. Yeah.
We're going to do all kinds of stuff like that. We did a first recording with him on it, and then we had him live on Halloween. And I suspect he'll be in Arizona soon, where he can do one with us. So we're going to be tied in with executive ministry and the National Council, which Jack and I know all of them personally. So we have a history with these people, and
well, yeah, that's that's an interesting thing, because since the thing launched, you like, I know a bunch of people, and they're like, how do I make content for this platform? And I want to tell them, and at the same time, I kind of want to be like, you're pretty new. You should hang back for a while before you start like cranking shit out. Get a feel for the room.
Yeah, it's going to be a little. I think I don't want to say it's going to be difficult, but there is a huge influx of new people that we don't know yet. But hopefully we get to know them as this progresses. Yeah. But as we all know, people come and go in this thing.
Exactly.
See, now that got me wondering, what's the how long does your average person stay, a person who's like a fly-by-nighter? Are they like maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of days or a couple of months?
Well, there's actually a book that came out that we consider kind of recommended reading called The Invention of Satanism that talks about how it's very difficult to point out numbers of Satanists, whether it's Levan or whatever other kind of Satanist someone proclaims to be, because a lot of people are either really secretive about it, or they're what we call reactive Satanists, where they come in, they want to, piss off mom with their devil shirt or whatever. They get really into it really quickly, or they do it through the music scene or the imagery or what have you, and then they kind of move on.
Sure.
Since there's like a whole transient culture with a lot of people, it's really hard to get the demographics pinpointed. I think we're at the point now where we can kind of see, at least with the Satanic Temple, who's here to stay. And we'll kind of just see how it goes with newer chapter heads and stuff, because it's a grueling job. And some people, when they're done, they kind of disappear. So, I kind of went that route. Michelle Short and I resigned, and we've been a lot kind of off the radar, so to speak, ever since then. It doesn't not active. It's just, it's hard to say who's doing what, and especially in a movement that has another component to it, like the activism component or what have you.
Yeah, although since you brought up the Invention of Satan stuff, there is Eric Sprankle is currently doing a poll. If you go to his Twitter, he's doing a poll of Satanists for demographic data to do a new poll.
I saw that. Did you talk to him? I saw someone talk to him recently.
I didn't talk to him about it, but I saw somebody. I saw a bunch of people, share.
Yeah, I saw him on something.
So I filled it out. It was really weird because there was this one part on there where it was just like, if you went to see a therapist, would you talk about your Satanism with them? And I'm just like, if I didn't, there'd be no point, because I just sit there in silence,
Well, for people like us,
exactly.
balls deep in Satanism.
That's interesting.
Not everyone. Some people are just really just wearing the T-shirt, so I guess that makes the difference.
Well, I imagine that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when you have people first enter this system, that there's a certain kind of process that they go through.
I mean, not really. And not at first. Well, that's part of the dynamic that's changing, because at first it was like all hands on deck. Can you do the job? Cool, you're in. And then, now as things need actual structure to them, it's become a whole different animal.
Yeah, and Lucian talks a bit about that in the Hail Satan documentary, where you kind of gain stuff and you lose stuff when it gets big, because it's just like Jack said. I remember I actually said that at one point. It's all hands on deck. It's like, people to do this thing, are you available? And that was kind of the extent of it. But that's not good long term, obviously. So I think now what really matters is people do their research. they figure out what each different group is about, if they even want to be a part of it, and then if they do, how active. That I just want to say I'm a TST, the Satanic Temple kind of Satanist, or do I want to get involved? Do I want to be a member of a chapter? Do I want to be a member of leadership? Do I want to organize? Do I want to help with ritual events? There's all kinds of different things, and it's kind of what you make it. If you get like any other group, I think if you get heavily involved, it is a huge time suck. It takes a lot of time and effort to do some of the stuff that we do, and a lot of us had to kind of drop back. I mean, Jack did too, for his own personal reasons. I had a career change and personal changes, so I think there's an ebb and flow to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
But stuff like this is still, a way to participate. It's just, this is what I have time to do, right? I'm a stay-at-home dad. I can talk on video all fucking day, but
Yeah, and mostly what I'm doing at this point is the lawsuit, which it takes a lot of bandwidth.
yeah.
And for the day, I got no more fight in me. It's like I just want to chill and do stuff like this with Jack is a good role for what I have time for now and for my level of participation. But like I said, this stuff it kind of has an ebb and flow, and people that are brand new today might be leaders tomorrow. Who knows?
So what can you say about the lawsuit that you're involved in right now?
Oh, well, I can tell you kind of procedurally where we are. Is Jack still there? I don't see him.
Yeah. I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, all of a sudden I don't see you, but I can hear you.
I can still see both of you.
Okay. Well, this is edited, right? This isn't live?
I mean, it's taped.
This is not.
Okay. Because I just lost track of what the hell I was talking about. Okay, so the lawsuits. Well, I can tell you where we are. That's kind of the extent of what I've been talking about lately. So where we are in Arizona, I'll talk about that one first because we launched that one first, is the city of Scottsdale is on their third motion to dismiss. So the first motion to dismiss was denied. The second one was called a cross motion for summary judgment, saying that if all the facts as alleged are deemed as true, we still win. Both sides said that. So that's why it's called a cross motion. It was denied as to both. What that means is the judge said that there are too many facts in dispute for that ruling to be made at this juncture. From there, the city filed its third motion to dismiss, saying that we don't have legal standing for a whole plethora of reasons, which brings up a few interesting points, such as, are we a franchise? What are we, the Arizona chapter? The fact that it wasn't formally founded at the time of the incident, does that mean that the Satanic Temple doesn't have standing, or are we an association of individuals that have the same underlying beliefs enough to have standing? So it raises all these agency and partnership questions and things that we didn't really anticipate. So we're waiting for a ruling on that, and if we prevail on that, we're going to trial in January.
Oh, hey, that's pretty soon.
It was supposed to be next month, but the judge extended it a month for whatever reason. He's a federal
Everything
judge.
takes forever in the court system, and that's just the way it is.
Well, and for that, I'm very glad.
Sure. And just to back up, this is all about invocation, the invocation.
Yes. Sorry. So in Scottsdale, it's what I'm calling the public prayer case. So they opened the city council meetings with a public prayer. We asked to be included, and what they said to us was, we don't have enough substantial community ties. Our claim is that was pretextual because that metric was not used on other groups, and we have evidence of that. However, the city's defense is that they would have applied that standard to anybody, and it had nothing to do with our religious beliefs. So that's what's in dispute.
Excellent. So what other suits do you have going on?
What's that?
What other suits do you have going on?
The other one that's my case is in Arkansas. They put up a 10 Commandments monument.
Right. Petitioned
to have the Baphomet monument put up. We were not able to get the sponsorship that we needed by the legislature. They switched the order of operations by which to procedurally erect a monument, which we're also claiming was because of our religious beliefs. And we're saying that having one without the other is an endorsement of one religion over another, which is different than the prayer case, because we're not saying that they're endorsing Christianity. We're saying that they're disparaging our religion, which are two different claims. So, and these laws are all different. So your laws for public prayer are going to be slightly different than your laws for monuments, that are going to be slightly different than your laws for instance, after school programs or whatever else, reproductive rights. So we're finding that the law is very narrowly tailored to these certain contexts, and we're having to navigate that, which is kind of a interesting experience, to say the least.
Interesting is an interesting word. That usually means there's a spike going through your head. At least that's how I use it.
Yeah, I hate it when people say interesting, which is why I just use that word, because It's another way to put it is it's a giant pain in my ass, and it's difficult. These are hard cases, and I think there's ways we can win this, and there's ways we can lose this, and they're highly, highly fact specific. So tiny details that occur in these cases could send it one way or the other. And if you look at the history of the case law on both monuments and public prayer, you'll find that there were narrow margins by which one won or lost. And usually they're plurality decisions, meaning very close, 5-4 or something like that. So, they're not slam dunks for either side. They're really not. And it's just going to come down to what details that sometimes we didn't even know at the time. They come out during litigation. So it's very stressful.
Oh, sure. I was going to say I had an interesting marriage for 20 years too, so I understand.
There's that word again, right?
Right. So I'm curious. Now, these two lawsuits, how do they, if they do at all, inform
Andy?
Current.
Sorry, I have to jump in. So, Stu, I know you're not allowed to talk about the deposition stuff.
Correct.
But can you give me can you just give me a sense of your mood when you found out that Lucian was tweeting?
My mood? It put a damper on my mood.
Okay.
But here, Jack, we've had this conversation before. I'm going to share all when this is over, and I have some pretty comical stories that you'll want.
I'm sure it's going to fantastic.
That I'm not privy to tell right now.
I know.
It's there's a lot of ins, a lot of outs. There's some of me yelling, stuff that I don't want to talk about right now.
I cannot wait.
I'm getting this whole Elon Musk vibe going on here. Like you guys are shareholders to Tesla, and Elon Musk is tweeting about something, maybe smoking pot on Joe Rogan's podcast.
No. Andy, are you familiar with this at all?
Vaguely. I mean.
No. Like Lucian was tweeting from inside the deposition, and it was, problematic as far as some people were concerned.
Sure. I can do that. So what my question was, getting back to me and my own narcissism, how does the lawsuits that you're doing now inform current and future strategy with I just lost.
Hey, Stu, did we lose you?
He's not saying anything, so maybe we lost him.
Uh-oh.
Hey, you did for a minute.
All right, cool. You're back.
I'm here now.
No worries.
Okay.
Do you see Stu? Because I see VA and no Stu.
I see Stu.
You see Stu, and that's all that counts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I see. I don't see Jack anymore. It just says JA.
Huh. Well, it's probably, doing internet things.
Very good. So my question was, how does the court proceedings that you're going through right now inform future strategies for how to get things done with the temple?
Well, the way my thought on that is that the hurdle that we, and not just we, but anybody bringing a constitutional claim in many different contexts, we're going to find these standing issues. The legal standing is the first way the government is going to attack a constitutional claim. So what we're finding through these cases is there were some standing issues we did not anticipate, such as the legal and corporate structure of the Satanic Temple as far as establishing itself as a church, such as, things like how many members there are and where they're located. There's a lot of questions about that. Now, I don't find these to be relevant, but here's the thing. If one of our cases gets thrown out on these grounds, we'll then know that these are facts and figures and dates and things that we're going to know going forward if the Satanic Temple itself as an entity is going to be a party. Additionally, if there's members of the Satanic Temple that are plaintiffs, there needs to be some legal connection to the suit itself that shores up that whole standing claim. And these things are a lot more nuanced than I even anticipated. And I know this stuff from practicing law in general, but it becomes very specific case to case in very different ways. And I think that that's something we're going to learn from this. But also what we're learning is that the law is not necessarily on our side as much as we think it is going into these things. Because over time, there has been this erosion of separation of church and state. There's a test, for instance, called the Lemon test that's applied to most separation of church and state cases that have been abandoned in both public prayer and monument cases. So funny enough for me is now that I have one of each, I'm learning that this standard that's been around since I think the 1960s or 70s is no longer used. Stuff like that is, something that we're going to have to keep an eye on with how these how the law kind of transforms over time in certain contexts.
Well, that raises some of the other issue with the legal battle thing, is that the other side is considerably bigger and more well organized. Like, we just got that leaked audio yesterday or the day before from that Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation tape thing that like spelled out how organized they are and how big they are, and I don't think they said how much.
We're outnumbered. We're outnumbered. We're outgunned. We're outfinanced, and we're not popular as they are. So it's an uphill battle in almost every conceivable way. That doesn't make me lose sleep at night.
No, not at all. I'm sure you're doing just fine. Right?
It's me and a guy in Arkansas, Matthew Kazaya, my partner in crime on the legal front. He and I against the world is how it feels sometimes.
Okay.
Are you getting any support from any other organizations?
If this goes to appeal, which we expect both cases, necessarily either the plaintiff or the defendants, there is going to be a slew of what's called amicus briefs, which are briefs in support of one position or the other from outside organizations. And I guarantee that there's going to be a lot of Christian organizations that are going to file on behalf of the city or the state, and there's going to be a lot of secular organizations that are going to file on behalf of TST. So we're going to have perhaps the Arizona Secular Coalition file their own brief in support of us. There might be the Freedom from Religion Foundation, or maybe not them. We have a very different tactic than they do. But
Americans
the ACLU
United might do it, though.
Americans United might. I don't know. But, we have the kind of attention where people are watching what's happening here.
Sure. I'm going to ask you a stupid question from a non-lawyery kind of point of view. Amicus briefs, do they actually do anything?
Well, amicus means it's actually friend of the court. So what it does is sometimes it provides separate case law that might support that institution's position that could bolster the argument. It's something that might not have been something that was either overlooked, or it might sharpen a point that we didn't make, or it might just show that this had a public chilling effect one way or the other that the justices or the court didn't consider. So the short answer is I don't know.
Sure.
But
well, that's not it.
I think it depends on the case. But when we've got a really thin margin of one way, when it's going to go one way or the other, I do think they're important. And I do think, and I'm hoping we do have support in that, because a lot of the institutions that would back us do have more resources than we do.
Sure.
Okay.
I see you again, Jack.
Oh, hey. I'm back. Yay. So what else has been going on? You said that I know that you took a step back, like after the documentary came out. Like, you had kind of stepped out a bit before that, but now, like, it felt like you just kind of, all right, I did my part for this. I'm just going to go do the lawyer stuff now. I did my happy pretties for the camera to get attention, and now I'm going to go do the actual work stuff. Like, that's what it felt like to me.
Well, it was more, Jack, you were there since the beginning, pretty much. There was a handful of us, but as it got bigger, and then I took more of a national role on national council, and that kind of pulled me out of the chapter work.
Uh-huh.
And Michelle Short was doing, a lot of that stuff. But what happened when I was in national council was I kind of burned out. because it was constant barrage of emails. And this thing was growing exponentially before the documentary came out. And I got very overwhelmed with trying to handle the chapter and then trying to handle national stuff. And then I launched the lawsuits. And I essentially had to make a choice.
Yeah.
And the choice was, if I stick with the law, that saps all of my bandwidth. So I dropped out of any leadership position. I felt also that the stress and how much time it took, I was no longer a good candidate for it. I just didn't have the bandwidth. It's like I didn't have time to answer all these emails. I didn't have time to talk to all these people like I did in the beginning. So yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like I was, I felt like I wanted to do what for the organization, the best thing that I could do, and that was the legal aspect.
What's that most I can do, least amount of work balance point, right?
Well, it was more the real work versus a lot of the social time.
Yeah, no, because it's the
events.
thing that you have the skill set for and nobody else can do.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm glad the torch was passed. I'm glad it's still going, and I'm glad it's not me, because my temperament wasn't the same either. Like by the time I stepped down, if someone challenged me on anything, I wanted to just tell them to fuck off, and I can't be doing that. So stick to the courtroom and let's other.
Although that would be really funny. It would be really funny if you just had like a public relations line where you just screamed at people like.
Yeah, you know how it is. It's like when you're a chapter head or whatever, you have to answer the same question over and over and over and over and over again. And when you've done it 1,000 times, it's like, maybe it's time for someone else to answer these questions, because I'm ready to go home. Like.
Yeah, and I think a lot of other people have gotten the language down, as we went.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of grown as like, okay, only this person can talk about this thing, and it's trickled out to where at least everybody's got the basic idea down, And
well, I didn't want to be that cantankerous, guy that's been doing it too long, which was quickly becoming the case.
Yeah.
So I think it better suited where I'm at now, and I think I'm at a position too where the show is a great thing for us to do, because we know the people to get us the interview, to come on the show.
Yeah.
We've been before we know exactly what TST is about, and we're here to stay, and we're doing important things. So it's like, yeah, I'd love to bring other people in and interview them instead of being interviewed by essentially strangers. Was how it is most of the time.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's very junkety. I've noticed.
I want to ask.
Once you get.
Oh, go ahead.
When you get misquoted in the media enough times too, you just don't want to do it anymore.
Well, I think it's important to have your own forum, your own platform to say what you need to say.
Yeah, and I think this will help. And what William, our producer, is saying too is we're hoping this gets people more off of Facebook and onto, interacting in different ways, because we're finding that social media is just a cesspool. People attacking each other because it's faceless and mostly nameless, and it just gets ugly real quick. So we're hoping to have more of a live, kind of fluid, different shows to kind of show the different aspects of it. We're hoping that this platform pulls it away from the squabbling of the internet forums and things like that. So we're hoping it's a new era for TST to have its own platform.
Right. I imagine if you're running a group of any kind, a Facebook group, that moderators have to do their job, and sometimes they have to do it more than other times.
That is a thankless task, man.
And if what I found out, which I'm glad about, is it's not a Satanic Temple problem; it's an internet problem. I mean, like you said, it's any group. It doesn't matter. Well, you could have a butterfly collecting group, and people are going to be at each other's throats about some shit. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's weird how that works out.
It's a phenomenon.
But even that, like, there's that point where like you look at a group that's in utter chaos, but at least all their business operations work, and you're kind of like, oh man, that means we have to get our shit together too.
And as we all know, getting one's shit together is a challenge enough on your own, let alone a group of thousands of people.
So, Jack, you've done one episode with Stu.
One episode of that, yeah.
You've done and way too many episodes with me. And so what's the difference between
an
doing a show
interview
with
with
Stu.
doing a show with you're both not particularly great with the tech.
A horror. I'm
How
not.
dare you?
No, I think actually I think I'm a lot more animated when I'm in the room with Stu. Like, I don't know, there's just something that makes me want to. I expect you to be the joke guy on this show more than me, because that's your
Sure.
thing. But on the other show, I feel like Stu's got the lawyer thing, so I get to be the slap. Like, there was a point when we were recording the show where, like, remember Jason Bateman's character in Dodgeball? That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him. That guy, right? Like, that's kind of what I was trying to channel, I think, a little bit when we were doing that taping.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm the straight man, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So on one show you're Jerry Lewis, on the other show you're Dean Martin.
I mean, you can put it that way if you want to. And in fact, I think
Well,
that on this new platform we should totally do a telethon. Like, I just think we should.
I felt that's how the launch was.
It felt that way, didn't it? A little bit.
Right.
Like, if we just like cut to a juggler and maybe a musical number,
Okay. Yeah, and this is my first time trying this, so I'm kind of, I've always been interviewed, and now I get to be the interviewer, and I'm really enjoying it in the short time we've done it. So I think over time we'll kind of get our vibe together, but we're very new at it.
Yeah, no, it took Andy and I ages to get this witty banter that we have going on now.
Is that what we're calling it? I guess that's what we're calling it. So Stu, after being interviewed so many times, did you take away anything that you're like, I'm never going to do this thing that I really dislike when it happened to me when I get interviewed?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
So, you mean a tip or something that I've learned from being interviewed that I don't want to do to people?
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
The thing is just like, when I'm interviewing people, I'm never going to do that fucking bullshit.
Man, that is a good question. I don't know if I have one off the top of my head, but I think I don't particularly like leading questions, and sometimes you can tell when the interviewer has their own narrative that they're trying to get a certain answer to you, and I feel like I'm being cross-examined. So I try to leave that open-ended, and I try to keep it conversational. Like, I don't like scripted things when it comes to this type of platform.
Sure.
Medium. But I don't know. I mean, mostly I really don't want to have a canned answer that I want from people. I just want to have a conversational thing. And I think Jack and I are both, good at that part. But sometimes, I would do news interviews where they're like, well, they'd say stuff like, well, you're not for real, right? You see it, and I love it in the beginning of the Hail Satan documentary when they ask about Rick Scott. It's like, you don't really like him, right? American. They're like, you don't believe that, right? That kind of shit always pissed me off. It didn't really happen to me that much.
Right.
I think it's happened. I think I don't know, because you haven't gotten to like as much of the atheist stuff as I have. Oh, he's breaking out the wine.
Oh, well, makes me feel real in control of the situation.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, a lot of the atheist stuff, like, that's where you get it's like the flying spaghetti monster thing, except Satan.
Yeah,
like, no, that's not what it is,
Exactly. When they're like, that's what I mean with the leading question, where it's like this, right? And I'm like, and then it leaves me having to be like, no, it's not like that. And they're like, okay, well, that's all the time we have.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to do that other thing where I'm doing short one-on-one interviews over there, because I want to drag in some of my atheist people and be like, hey, we need to settle this non-theist, anti-religion thing, because we've got the religion part locked in, and you can't keep being like, religion's a problem, right? We need to start working on that verbiage,
That reminds me, there was one interview I did, and I think it ended up in the documentary also, where the guy said, so, if you're not devil worshippers, then why call it Satanism? Like, you might as well worship a pickle jar. What do you say? A pickle jar full
Pickle jar full of sand,
And
which is
that-
such a weirdly specific thing.
Yeah, and that's why it stands out. I'm like, of all the things to say to me, like, what the fuck? And then I was like, well, he's like, so if I said my God was a pickle jar full of sand, that would fly, right? And I'm like, well, if it was your sincerely held belief, I mean, yeah. But I'm like, how are you supposed to answer that? It's like, okay, you're trying to make an ass of me and trying to show your superiority, and I'm just being interviewed. So I'm like, okay, we can dance this dance, I guess.
Alan Moore worships a winged feathery snake thing that is definitely like not even a real mythology that just got made up in the middle of the Roman Empire.
Yeah, I mean,
people believe weird shit.
But that's what I'm always like. We didn't pull this shit out of a hat.
Right.
Like, there's a whole history of this metaphorical construct. Anyway, the thing with the platform is I feel like we'll be catering to an audience that kind of knows at least the basics of this, else they won't even be watching this.
Yeah.
If they want to learn, they'll come in with an open mind. But it's when you're on these antagonistic news shows that are just trying to be sensational, where the interviews get fucking stupid really quick.
So, Jack, is that the name of your show, your one-on-one show? We just didn't pull this shit out of our hat?
No. I decided to call that one an ongoing and noble pursuit, or an ongoing and necessary pursuit.
Very nice.
Plucked a phrase out of one of the tenets, and I'm just like, what is this? Well, that's what this is. And the intros suck and are boring, and it's all white text on black backgrounds, and I'm just like, I don't have time for fancy visuals. We're going to talk.
You're going to be like Between Two Ferns, but with Satan.
A little bit, maybe, I guess.
Oh, God.
I've had ideas, man. I haven't even begun like putting stuff to paper and whatnot. I have all kinds of weird shit that we can get away with.
I've got some ideas too. I got some funny stuff I want to do.
Yeah, you want to do some scripted stuff?
I don't know about scripted, but I want to keep it fresh.
Remember like when we did the recordings for that Bisbee ritual in my house?
Yes, that was fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking like we could technically do stuff like that and make it be like jokes about like scenes about people in web meetings with each other. I think it'd be hilarious.
Well, one thing that we did for the Arizona chapter was we did kind of mean tweets, like the ridiculous stuff put on our page. That was pretty fun, and I actually think that one should be a little more scripted than it was, because sometimes we would read this stuff and be like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And that was our reaction.
Well, I think the thing is like we said this is how much time we have to do it. We're just going to go, and we'll let the editor pick.
But
we could, ones,
because and that's the Freedom from Religion Foundation has they post their crank mail, as they call it, and so they've got kind of a similar thing where it's like what we do is dead serious, but there's got to be some levity to what we're doing, especially with Satanism. There's got to be some theatrics, some levity. One of the things we kind of resist in religion is how seriously it takes itself, and I think that being kind of a core premise in my mind, at least, we really need to kind of show people that it's like we've got a sense of humor, and there's the people that we work with and are part of this are actually pretty clever and funny, and I really want to demonstrate that through the show, and I think we've got plenty of people lined up.
For sure.
I imagine the problem isn't the fact that you don't have enough talented people.
What's that?
I imagine the problem isn't that you don't have enough talented people. In other words,
it's not the talent pool; it's the availability and money, like everything else, right?
Yeah.
You can.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
We've got.
Have
I mean,
one of the fast or good, and you only get to pick two. That's just the way it works.
One of the things that I love is, how many artists, people from all walks of life. This whole thing blew up with the Navy, where a military guy got his TST study group up, and that made national news. And sometimes things come up that I don't even know are going on, and I would love to have, for instance, that guy on if he wants to talk about it and be like, what was your experience doing this in the military? There's like, it's something that I wouldn't have thought of to do, and not something that I would have been in an environment to do. So the fact that these things are just kind of taking a their own path depending on what walks of life people are in, I think is incredible. And I think that really legitimizes that this is a real social movement that spans demographics. I just think that's so cool. And I'd love to be in a position where I can talk to people about it and show this to other members and things like that. So I'm very stoked about this project.
Andy, your window keeps resizing. I apologize to the people watching for that, but
My window.
yeah, just
My
your,
window.
I don't know whether it's probably because like your internet connection is changing your sample rate for the video. Like it's dynamically
It's funny
changing.
how I understand what that means.
See, I've been doing this long enough that I can explain this shit to the non-tech people.
Okay. Do they get like close up Andy and then far away Andy?
Yeah, it keeps
or-
popping in and out, but that's okay. It'll be fine. It's only second video.
Oh.
People will be nice, right? I'm sure the YouTube comments will be nice.
Yeah, right.
Said no one ever about anything.
So what else is going on with you, Stu? I know you took a step back. How's you and your band doing? We haven't talked about your band on this show before. Tell us about the one.
We actually, yeah, I might as well. So Scar Eater has a new member. We have a sixth member who plays keyboards, synthesizer, and that's been an interesting addition. We thought it was going to be maybe a temporary thing, but we really like it. It's going to change the whole sound, I think, in the future. So we recorded this album, and I
seem to remember you being emphatically anti-piano the last time it ever came up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for many years. I was that guy that was like, you can't have piano and metal. That's the most unmetal thing in the world. And then I realized I wasn't very metal myself. So I think also that it, as time went on, I kind of softened to that. And there are a lot of metal bands with synthesizers and stuff, but I think this is going to be great. I'm also starting, hopefully, a side project with the keyboardist. And I want to do a trip hop project, like old Portishead and things like that. And we recorded one song. I'm hoping to do that some more, but
awesome.
We'll see where it takes me.
And how
do you do songwriting, Stu?
What's that?
Are you a songwriter?
Yeah, well, I mean, my parts. I write guitar. Everyone writes their own stuff in the band, so that's always how I've done it in every band I've been in. But yeah, we had the album come out. It's called Never Not Broken, which is named after a goddess, a Hindu goddess named Akhilanda. And this weekend, we're actually going to be playing in an art gallery opening. I don't know why they wanted us to do that, but rest in peace, gallery.
Sounds apropos. It's kind of weird.
Rest in peace is the name of the gallery?
No, that's how I feel about
okay. Good. That's what I
thought.
I'm like,
we're pretty rowdy crowds. Like, I don't know why they even asked us to do it.
Maybe they're hoping that you're going to, soften and show up and do like an acoustic set.
Well, I'm sure everyone's going to be respectful, but it was weird to have a metal band in an art gallery. But hey, we say yes to anything weird, so.
I think it's also Tucson. Like, what's the art show?
Yeah.
Like that. Tucson's a very kind of.
There's a lot of art shows that are happening lately.
Yeah. But like, I mean, like a metal band for like a metal sculptor, right? Where it's these
I don't know,
pointy steel welded things. I'm like, yeah, okay, a metal band makes sense,
Well, one of the artists, Rudy does a lot of art for metal bands in town, and I actually have a huge piece of his in my house. That big red panel above the bar in my house, that's Rudy Flores, and he's going to be there. So I imagine it's going to be kind of that kind of type of edgy, dark themed art. So I'm stoked about it. Actually, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But, in Tucson, we've got this issue where a lot of the venues are closing and they're building high-rise apartments over them. So
this is the exact opposite of urban blight. It's the vibrancy problem, right? Where all of a sudden all of your real estate is really attractive to investors.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's gentrification, and And we're turning, my concern is 4th Avenue is going to turn into Mill, like in Tempe.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
that
it's
does appear to be the way it's kind of starting to gonna go, huh?
Oh yeah, it is. It absolutely is. With the stuff that's getting torn down, and what I'm seeing is going to go up. I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? But
we've got an apartment complex with a built-in Whole Foods. You cannot get any more developer-friendly, expensive, unnecessarily yuppie bullshit.
But I am wondering what it's going to do to the band scene, if it's going to push us out to the outskirts, or if we're going to end up playing in holes in the wall, which I have no problem with. As a hardcore band, we're like made for that. But I just don't know.
Well, I mean, but the population of the city's going up too, right? So it's kind of like everybody find their place kind of deal, right?
It makes me crazy. Enough traffic. We have enough snowbirds. Like everyone.
Andy, are you familiar with the term snowbird, Andy? You know it.
Oh, I am. Yeah, my parents used to have a place down in Florida, and so they would fly back and forth from Massachusetts to Florida. Yeah. I was not aware that there were snowbirds in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Fair amount from Chicago and Pittsburgh for some reason. I don't know why they decide to come here, but they do.
Warm weather. I don't know, but at any rate, it's we're getting pushed into all kinds of weird venues, and that's I don't know. I'm an old timer now as far as the scene goes, so it's like, boy, that's rad. I'm stoked.
So, Stu, what's your craziest band story, without incriminating yourself, sir?
Craziest band story?
Yeah.
I don't know. We've had some injuries in the mosh pits that were pretty bad, and we did a couple tours, but they were small scale. So it's like I got no Nikki Sixx stories. We're not trashing hotel rooms or anything like that. But off the top of my head, I've been doing it for so long, but not on any grand scale.
Is there any time that you age out of the mosh pit?
What's that?
Is there any age that you age? Is there any point in your life that you just age out of the mosh pit? It's like
I feel like I already have. I put a good 10 seconds in. It's like my favorite song, or my buddies up there playing, and I'll jump in and jump out. It's like you get into the pool and it's too cold. It's like, okay, try. I'm going to stand over here in the back and drink my beer. Yeah, I don't know.
That's why you get in the band, so you don't have to be in the audience.
It's not, and it's not even like a fear of getting injured or anything like that. I'd rather just be standing here. I don't want to get sweaty. I don't feel like it. It's like I'm having just as much fun heck here as I used to have up there. So fuck it.
Well, Stu, I'm sure you've heard on the show once or twice how we like to end the show when we're coming up to the end, and that is for us to ask you, is there anything that you wanted to talk about, like really get off your chest, that we didn't ask a question about or didn't bring up, and you just want to take 5 minutes to say whatever the hell you want?
I think I would have battering rammed it to you guys if there was. Let me think. No, the lawsuit thing, it's almost like I'm just tired of talking about it because they've been going on for so long. Not because I'm tired of the subject, but it's like we're 3 years in now on some of this stuff. Like, I'm so tired of talking about it. I just, we're trying to get through this war of attrition. But I don't normally talk about my band that much, like at all. I just kind of do it. So that's kind of interesting to talk about. No, I think we covered it, and we talk a lot, Jack. So it's not like.
Yeah, but nobody sees that.
Burning things.
Those are private, Stu. Those are private.
Well, there's nothing been burning that I haven't gotten to talk about lately. So I think we covered it. Thanks, guys.
Right.
All righty.
So you guys should plug your show one more time.
Oh yeah. Do you want to plug the Dispatch?
Sure. The Devil's Dispatch. Only on the Satanic Temple TV with myself and Jack Matirko. We're going to try to do it twice a month if we can pull it together. But we're hoping to have that on the streaming service that is thesatanictemple.tv. That's the website, that's the platform, and that's the show.
And they put a bunch of cool stuff up this week. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw some of it, yeah, and there's more than just us. There's going to be a lot of cool shows. And there's going to be, I think there's going to be enough content where it is going to be worth paying for a subscription, because there's a lot of stuff already that I had no idea a thing. So I think that's pretty cool, and I think it's going to be worthwhile.
Sounds very positive. Great place to end.
Thank you so much, Stu. Always good to talk.
Thank you guys, and I'll see you soon, Jack, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Stu. Thanks for coming.
All right, yeah, thank you.
And
Sure.
we're gone.